One of the most remarkable features of my hometown of Listowel, County Kerry, is its town park. The park is a combination of an old feudal domain and a commonage being a place where locals were permitted to graze cattle, hence its colloquial name, the Cow's Lawn. One of the park's most striking features is something called the Garden of Europe, and one of the Garden of Europe's most intriguing features, for me at least, is a bust of the German Romantic philosopher, poet and dramatist Friedrich Schiller. As a philosopher, Schiller was very much influenced by his most famous compatriot Immanuel Kant, particularly his theory of moral judgment. Inspired by a recent walk in the park, I would like editors' thoughts for this week to be on Immanuel Kant's Groundwork to the Metaphysic of Morals. In this essential text, Kant argued that good and moral action was the result of reason, not emotion or fear of punishment. In some respects, Kant's moral reflections are not as remote from our ordinary philosophical understandings as one might imagine. Most will recall occasions when they did something bold as a child, and their mother or father saying something to the effect, "Well, if everybody did that, where would the world be?" Well, that is pretty close to what moral judgments were to Kant. When deliberating on the moral permissiveness of an action, someone should ask, if I did this, would I be content for it to become universal law? Something everybody in my situation would be permitted to do in these circumstances. If yes, then the action is rational and moral. If no, then the action is irrational and immoral. Let's say, for argument's sake, that I was a bored teenager again. Itching for distraction and danger, I catch sight of a fabulous BMW 3 Series. I am suddenly tempted to hotwire it. However, as I approach the vehicle, I receive a pang of conscience. I think and reason to myself that if everybody just stole everybody else's car, civilization would fall apart, and trust between people would quickly evaporate. I ask myself the question, do I really want to live in a society where everybody behaved like this? Would I consent for this action to become a universal law? This would be an example of moral reason. Every day, millions of us, especially those of us who live and work in big cities, walk past homeless people. We see them cocooned in sleeping bags and slumped under shop doorways and porticos. Some of us feel profoundly uncomfortable. We are unable to look at them without receiving a deflating feeling of guilt. While some of us are numb, we simply shrug our shoulders and get on with our day. Kant in his moral philosophy would like us to transcend our petty needs, desires and emotional inclinations, and instead forge standards and laws that are universally applicable, rules that would be accepted by every individual, laws that all cultures and societies would be rationally obliged to accept. On the question of homelessness, a Kantian approach would entail posing to ourselves the following hypothetical question. Can we accept a society that permits the possibility of homelessness, or do we need to build a society where such a thing is not possible? In these troubled and tortured times, with the COVID-19 death rates spiralling, with emergency measures to combat the virus wreaking havoc on human society, plunging our economy towards a recession, I believe we should revisit Kant's moral philosophy. We should never approach an issue like homelessness in a heartless way. Our capacity to feel compassion for our fellow human beings, empathise with their suffering, is one of our most treasured intellectual and moral assets. But I think we should also look at these issues in light of moral reason. Our gut might tell us to ignore the homeless person, but perhaps we should stop and pause for a moment's reflection and ask ourselves, would a rational and just society permit such a thing? Similarly, our gut might tell us to ban all private property and appropriate all property to the state. But that would be what would be the legal and societal ramifications of such a move. Kant's moral philosophy is a demand on our imagination. It demands we imagine different forms of laws in practice, different social and legal orders, and pass judgment on them based on our reason. I think it's time to do this again, not just to rely on our guts and instincts, but to really ask what kind of society we want, what kind of society we want to live in. Hello everybody, really hope you enjoyed that. Please tune in next week. I will be talking about one of my all-time favourite novels, Albert Camus' The Plague. In the meantime, if you are watching on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. If you would like me to read and appraise your book, please don't hesitate. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and look after yourself. And see you next week. Bye for now.